When it comes in our website's tagline is protecting consumer rights, and that's what
Yeah.
we do. We're the people that protect consumer rights. That's what we
Yeah.
do.
So I listed off a number of items that you guys help with. To be honest, I don't even know what the Electronic Funds Transfer Act is. I think I've heard of Fair Debt Collection, Credit Reporting Act, and obviously the background check issue, which we'll talk about specifically when it comes to Uber and Lyft drivers and other gig workers. But maybe give us a high level about Smith Marco PC. What does the firm that you founded in 2005 specialize in? What are you guys known for? And also, what do you enjoy working on the most too?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
we're a firm that as we do mostly consumer rights,
Okay.
all consumer rights, but most of it is focused in the credit reporting and background reporting and big data field. That's what we
Got it.
like to focus on. So when we're dealing with big data companies and reporting false information or not maintaining privacy, those are the big areas of focus.
Mm.
Accuracy and privacy, the things that people care about and concern themselves with when it comes to these data companies housing a ton of information about us.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. We love the credit report stuff, and we really love this background report stuff. There's nothing more rewarding than when you get somebody that comes to you with I'm out of work.
Yeah.
They turn me off. There's somebody else out there with my name that's done these terrible things.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I can't get to work. What do we do? I'm losing money. I'm bleeding here.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than taking that case on because you know exactly what happened and how to fix it.
Yeah.
Thanks. It is kind of a niche thing. I mean, there's not a lot of lawyers that do it, and every year we have these conventions where we get together, and I swear you could fit us all in a room. You can't
Couple
fit all
dozen.
the lawyers on LaSalle Street in a room, but you could fit all the lawyers that handle the Fair Credit Reporting Act in one room pretty easily. So there's not a lot of us out there, and I like that as well. And I like having this unique things that we do for people.
I mean, I can sort of briefly set the scene and you can feel free to add on to it. But, in order for folks, so for those who don't know, in order to sign up to drive with Uber and Lyft, one of the requirements is that you pass a background check, right? And I believe Uber actually runs them through Checkr, for example. And, I think as long as you haven't murdered anyone recently, you usually pass. And, I think they also look at your driving report. I don't actually know all the details, but I know that in kind of the ideal situation, these things can move very quickly. It's really, not an issue. It seems like more when these issues do arise, it's like either really smooth sailing or completely the opposite. There's nothing in between. Do you have anything else to add on sort of the high level of how background checks are involved in the process of getting gig workers on these platforms in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like you said, you can't open up the app with one, right? And
As a driver.
not just Uber. I think Lyft is using Checkr now. All of them now. I mean, I've recently seen 5 different ones are using Checkr. There's a few others. There's higher
Gig companies.
What's that?
Gig companies are all using Checkr basically.
They're all the driving gig companies are using Checkr. It seems there used to be a company called First Advantage Background Corp, and they've been around, and HireRight has been around. Those are a couple of the other big ones, but Checkr has been doing all of them. And what we're really seeing is it's not so much Checkr getting a report and giving it to Uber and saying or Lyft and saying, here's what we got. It's more Checkr doing the whole thing, making the decision. Like they're already told by Uber and Lyft, here's who we're hiring. Weed out these people. Don't even, just block them. Just call them a rejection. So actually Checkr will be the one that makes the employment decision when it comes to the background. Checkr decides whether you pass the background check or not.
Really?
And so it'll go through them. And when Checkr says it's okay, then Uber finds out and your app gets turned on. And
so they're sort of playing a dual. So it sounds like Checkr is sort of playing a dual role where they're actually running your background check and sort of, doing that piece, checking the things that they need to check, but then also making some sort of quasi employment decision too.
Certainly the employer is the one telling Checkr what the parameters are. But Checkr's the one that's ultimately, I mean, they're just skipping the step. They're just saying, hey, if you find it, you tell the person.
Oh, really?
You give them the report so they could look at it. You handle the dispute. So Checkr kind of takes it and takes it all from there. And then they also, as you probably know, it's not just to get hired. They're checking you every year or even every couple of months now. I've seen one person that was getting checked like 4 times a year for some reason. It just
Wow.
it was so random. It was so random. And then other people, it's once a year. But I think the reason why they're stepping up is because, as you said, it was the Wild West. And it's not a legal requirement for them to do a background check. It's just smart legally because they're on notice that some drivers have done bad things.
Yeah.
And so now they have to know that that's a predator. There's predators out there that will unfortunately, use this great service to be predators. So they kind of have to do this for the safety of people, the safety of the customers, and their own to watch their own butts, because now they know there's dangerous people out there. But then there comes the requirements, legal requirements when they do. So there's no requirement to do a background check, but when you do, there are all these regulations that they have to follow, and we tend to catch them on that.
Is this typically a state by state issue, these background checks? Do they kind of vary state by state, like other things like insurance? And, some of these fields can be really complex just because every single state is different.
I think a lot of these companies are doing it based upon what their risk people are telling them. I think that's what it is. The more risk that there is, the more chance they're going to do a background check. Now, states can enact these laws. It's really peculiar because the Fair Credit Reporting Act preempts any state law, and it says, hey, states, you can't create laws that we've already created this law. Now, if you want to afford some other protections that we haven't already done with this Fair Credit Reporting Act, you may try. So states have come out and said things like, well, you can't do a background check if the person's making less than X amount of dollars a year. Or if you do a background check, we're going to say that you can't report a conviction over this many years if the job doesn't pay this much money. So there are parameters a state can put in there.
Who are the types of folks in the gig economy coming to you, and why?
They're the drivers, and they're coming for 3 reasons. There are 3 primary kinds of cases we see.
These are Uber and Lyft drivers primarily?
Yeah, Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash, and Postmates, and Uber Eats, all of them. I mean, we have handled somebody in each of those at this point. So there's 3 different kinds of things we see. Number 1 is the pure merged file. We got the wrong person. This person has the same name as somebody else, and that information is showing up in the report, and it's just an outright throwing them out. It's a terrible thing. The second kind of thing we see a lot of is not having an updated file. Maybe the person did get convicted, but it was expunged, or it was sealed, or something like that. So just not having an update to know that person was, whatever it was is now gone. So they looked at an old record. And then the third thing we see a lot of is just pure misreading a record. Like, just here's the record and the computer's just not reading it right, and it just grabs the wrong words and puts it on. And I saw that 2 really interesting stories. I saw it once with a woman who had this just amazing, impeccable driving record. She was a CDL, she did hazmat, she did everything. She never had a problem. She decided she was done driving trucks and wanted to drive, and not even people, she just wanted to drive and deliver food. She didn't want people. It went and read her license information wrong. All she did was just not renew her hazmat, and not renew her CDL. Just said, I'm done.
Yeah.
And the way it read was, needs to renew, it is expired, and it's all God. And they're like, but that's not what it was. Another one I saw was a person that was being tried for a crime. I can't recall what it was, but he was found not guilty. Okay.
Yeah.
He fought it, found not guilty. You win, right?
Yeah.
It showed up on the report as a guilty. How'd that happen? I pulled the public record myself, and there was this mistake the way it was typed up. It said guilty, then it said not guilty. Then under that it said that he's, removed and relieved of all of his, pre-trial requirement. He's off of parole. He's off of, it just said no fine, but all it saw was the guilty thing on top and just stopped right there. So that's another way we see problems, is just plain old misreading the record and putting it on the report the wrong way. Each one of these things causes the app to get shut off.
Yeah. So if in that scenario, they are basically, one of the three reasons, wrong name, not having the updated file, misreading of their background report, and, Uber and Lyft say they reject you. They say that you can't drive for us. I mean, what do they do? Because normally I feel like I get a lot of questions from these drivers, and I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on my own podcast, but I'm gonna. They're shit out of luck normally.
No,
So,
you're not. You're not at
okay.
all. Come to me. Come call me, because
Well, tell me what are drivers, I mean, normally, like what does a driver, before they go and hire a lawyer, what do they do? What's your advice for them in that situation?
First things first. So the law says, and Uber and Checkr, they all know this, that when the report comes out that has bad information on it, when this report comes out, but you can't just, besides just turning the person's app off, they have to actually give you a copy of the report. So you're going to get an email with, here's the report, here's what it is.
Got it.
And you have and it'll also say on that email what your rights are under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, just really quick aside, I know I said Fair Credit Reporting Act, just trust me, this stuff is covered by the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The law is misnamed. Background reports are covered under this law. So they will tell you what your rights are under this law. We can have more on that if you want. I can talk about it, whatever. But
I think we're all right.
But they'll tell you what your rights are, and it's essentially to go ahead and dispute it and tell them. So you'll immediately, while you're on that, you could do it right there on the screen. You just tell them, you're wrong. This is not what it is.
And this would be with Checkr?
Yeah, you would do it.
You're disputing with Checkr.
And Checkr, so Checkr will get the information, and if there's anything else you could give them, if you have the record, if it's a sealed or expunged record, and you have the order sealing or expunge it, get it over to them. If it's something like that, get it over to them. Whatever they have, they get by law. They have 30 days to conduct an investigation and report back the results to you. And if they make a change, they won't just tell you they're making a change. They'll tell Uber or Lyft, hey, we've corrected this person's report. They're eligible again. And then you get noticed. You'll get notified. It's if they won't correct it, you're going to need me. But even if you're losing that time, even for that 30 days or 2 weeks or 1 week or however long it is that they're investigating it, you're losing money. And there is a reason why they're doing it wrong. There's a reason why they're doing it wrong. And they're not utilizing all reasonable procedures they should when they're making these reports. So that's why I say, if you get turned off for a false background report, I know you don't want to hear call a lawyer first. But yes, go right ahead and dispute it. But you have rights, and you shouldn't give up on those right away.
It's like, we've kind of mentioned this a few times. It seems like Uber and Lyft really aren't the right people to reach out to if there are issues with background checks. It seems like a lot of the, sort of responsibility, or if things are going to get fixed, it seems like Checkr is the one that's going to fix this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like my one of the things I see every day in my work is that a lot of times something bad happens, and the knee-jerk reaction is to get really excited and uptight and nervous and just knee-jerk everything, and it's just not typical for a person to stop and read everything before them. You don't want to calm down and sit and read everything in front of you, but you do. I mean, you just have to just stop and just before you just start going, I'm calling my employer right away.
Yeah.
Look at I wish people would just stop and look at what they got. It would tell that it says right there.
I mean, I will say it does seem like a somewhat reasonable process. I mean, like I kind of joke that in the ideal scenario, you can get onboarded as an Uber driver in hours, right? All this stuff can happen really quickly. It's when things sort of hit the fan that there are issues. You highlighted a few of the things that can go wrong. And so I think that, even though if it is happening to you in the moment, right, and you're deactivated, right, for a false background report, you're going to be pretty pissed. But at the same time, I mean, the process seems reasonable. They have that you need to give them some time to investigate it and kind of look into it, and hopefully they fix their error.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, if it is a wrong person case, a mixed file, what we call a mixed file, because they're mixing your file with somebody else, they fix those really fast.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, there's probably a lot of Larry Smiths out there, right?
How's this? I went to college with one, and he was so much more famous than me, and so my phone would ring off the hook because a star basketball player in my school was named Larry Smith. So getting confused with somebody is something not alien to me. I get it.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, I find it funny that they correct that one really fast, because I mean, that's usually the one thing that has the driver gets that one and goes, I mean, attempted murder, you freaking out.
Yeah.
How did you put this on my report? Oh my God. And then, but they fixed that one overnight. Oh yeah, that was. And you just kind of sit and go, well, hold on a second. If you were able to figure out overnight that this was not that person, why couldn't you figure that out overnight when you were making the report in the first place? I mean, you got this information that said this person matches to an attempted murderer. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Just look at the name before we just, where did that happen? You know, this person lives in this state. The murder happened in that state. Wait a second. Do you have anything else that matches this person is living in that state for any period of time? I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Gender. You know, when you get arrested, you don't carry your social security card, right? Yeah. So they don't match you with social security cards. So when people say, well, how they have my social? Well, they don't have your social when you're getting arrested, you know, and people give fake names all the time, right? But fingerprints, gender, that stuff is on a rap sheet. Yeah. That stuff is in the record. I had a guy get denied a job a few weeks ago. It wasn't a rideshare. It was something in a different area. It was like a warehouse, but he got denied a job because of a mismatched name. The guys were a different gender. Yeah. The bad guy was a white guy, and the guy applying for a job was an African-American guy. And he's like, it's not, you can even look at the pictures. Yeah. You can get a mugshot online pretty easily too. So the mistakes that are being made, in my mind, are pretty amazing. And that's why I say, you know, just call a lawyer, because they're just making these grave errors that's costing a lot of money.
Well, so let's put myself in the shoes of someone who just applied for a job driving with Uber or Lyft, not to pick on one company or the other, and I'm rejected, and I see that there's some error on my background check. What my next steps? How do you work with drivers in that situation?
So if they're calling me, I will make sure they're disputing, and if they're not, I'll walk them through it. And I'll help them make sure that they do it the right way.
On their own? You would help them dispute it on their own, basically.
They're going to have to communicate directly with Checkr. Yeah. And it's going to work right on that computer screen or right on your phone screen, because that's how they've communicated with you. So I'm going to make sure that you did that, and I'm going to walk you through it. I'm going to advise you to keep looking for work if you need other work. But then I'm also going to begin preparing a lawsuit against that background reporting company for falsifying your information. I mean, we're going to investigate and make sure we know what they did wrong. I'm not just going to, run the house with a lawsuit. But like I said, there are these three kinds of main errors, and we just really recognize them and understand how they work and are able to put a case together pretty easily.
Something like that. What's like your ideal case where it kind of benefits you the most, maybe benefits the driver, gets the most value out of it? And, like what are they going after? Like lost wages to me. I mean, I guess, I don't know if you just assume everyone's a full-time or part-time, but that can vary too, right? How does it all work?
So here's how it works. First of all, the best thing about this law is that it provides for the recovery of any actual damages that you suffer, plus attorney's fees and costs.
Got it.
I don't care how big your case is. I don't care if you're off of a day or if you're off a week or if you're off 2 months.
That is cool.
By the hour, according to the law, and I will
by
bill,
them.
I will bill by the hour. I will keep my bill, and they will have to. I have to negotiate it with them, or a judge will decide it. But that gets worked out. And then what we will do is we will sit and figure it out. What did you lose? What were you earning? How, what did you expect to earn? What do people in that area earn? What do, Uber puts that out there, and Lyft put that out there in their ads. You could earn this much money in your area. So,
and they tend to err on the high side, which, probably helps you in these cases.
If they tell you that, then that's what you could expect to make, right? So we use that too. And we just try to figure out what our clients' damages are. And depending again on the case, there are those cases that, if you're mistaken for a sexual predator and it's very embarrassing, there's a premium, right?
Got it.
Cover. But again, whatever you lose, whatever your losses are, you're entitled to.
So typically it's lost wages make up the bulk of the recovery.
Sometimes.
Hmm.
Sometimes it does. But there's been times where somebody was off of work for all of 3-4 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't lose a lot of money. But what it was that was on the report was just really, just wow. You had me mistaken for, I went home that night. I didn't sleep. I didn't, gross. And that could, again, buy itself a little premium. It's just one of those things that we look at it as a case by case basis. And we also have a nice history now to go back on. We've handled enough of these. We know the different kinds of losses. And so we can figure out what those, if we can't get a calculation to the dollar, we can get a nice number for that person. And again, our fees are what they are, however much time we have to put into it, they'll pay us. I don't care if it's how big or small it is. You kind of hit the nail on the head. It's like one of my favorite things about what I do. And kind of like, really, to be honest with you, when I set out to be a lawyer way back when, thinking about what it is I want to do, I've always felt like I wanted to help the person. I always wanted to help the person, the individual who has a problem. And I like to help them get up a hill. If they're facing a mountain in front of them, I want to show them, hey, I can get you up that mountain. It's real easy. Come on.
Yeah.
And I like to take on those big companies. And I like to say that every major bank, every credit reporting agency, all the major background companies, we've gone to battle with them all.
Yeah.
We've done just fine, if not better.
I guess I didn't realize too that it's really Checkr. I mean, again, I'm kind of picking on Checkr a little bit, but how does Checkr feel about this whole process? And like, what's your relationship with Checkr or even Uber and Lyft? I mean, are they kind of are Uber and Lyft really involved in this situation, or more you and Checkr and the driver?
No, we really haven't gone after them. And the truth is, there are requirements that the employers must adhere to when it comes to these. And sometimes they skimp on them a little bit. But this person wants to work for that employer. So we don't want to initiate litigation against the person's employer. That's just not a good way to start off your relationship, right?
Fair.
So we're trying to, hey, only if you're never going to work for those people and they did something really wrong that caused you the loss of the job and damages, will we do something? But it's these background companies, and how do they feel about it? I don't know. They're not changing the way they do things necessarily. So obviously they think that it's just the cost of doing business, it seems. Because they're still matching the same way they've always matched. They've always used the same kinds of algorithms and matching criteria, and it doesn't seem to change.
And it's just
claiming the mask, but there's other issues too, like customer complaints that really bother me.
Well, so you mentioned masks. What have you seen during COVID? Because has that changed in, more issues, less issues? What have you seen?
During COVID, we saw so few cases. I mean, there was, it was way down, way down. So we didn't see a lot at all. I did, you forwarded me some emails, and I do recall, there's a person or two that were getting deactivated because there's a complaint over not wearing their mask. That's unfortunate. That really is, because I don't know that really falls into the protections of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Only really a background report that has information that's false that's being used to deactivate you.
So most of or I guess all of the cases you have to take sort of have to fall under this background report issue. One other thing I wanted to touch on before we sign off here, we talked about the brand new folks to the platforms and also the ones who have been driving for a little bit and get subjected, I call it subjected, to an annual background check. What are some of the differences you've seen there? I guess one thing that stands out to me, it seems like you would have, I don't know if more solid, but if I've been working for Uber for a year and now I'm deactivated, right, because of a false background, that seems like a much bigger issue than if I'm not even working for them yet, right?
They're far angry.
Yeah.
To put it mildly,
100%.
The people that call me that have been working there for a year or 2 years and have passed background check, and then those they're exasperated, they're angry. I mean, you get the other people are just like, hey, this is just, wow, why is this going? wrong. And you're like, okay, let me take
But
care
they
of
never
it.
actually worked for them, right? So it's sort of,
Yeah,
they're
they're
not
just
as
like, hey,
invested.
and sometimes they're people that have never even been through a background check before. So they're
Yeah.
just like, hey, this is, wow, what happened here? But then you get the people that have been through it, and then they come back a year later and they get it, and they're just like, they're, like,
Yeah.
how this happened? How come? And they want me to answer. How did I pass the first background?
Yeah.
How did I pass?
That's funny
I'm
you
like, I
mentioned
don't
that. I
know.
literally have
Yeah,
gotten
so
many
they just
questions.
don't know.
I've gotten many questions from drivers like, how did they not catch this the first time?
I don't know how they didn't catch it. I don't know how you got
Yeah.
by. I don't know why. I just know why this happened now. I could just tell you why the bad report happened this time. I don't know why you passed
So
it.
is there any difference in the cases for those folks that have, I mean, I think they're definitely angrier, but do they have a better case or more potential damages, or what have you seen for those that have been, already on the platform?
As far as, damages are damages, and your
Yeah.
harm is your harm. So whatever your time is, and however the
Okay.
calculation is, it is. It's just it's an aspect of liability.
Yeah.
You're going to prove that Checkr did something negligently, and that's just another fun way of playing with it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, well, what did you do the first time that you didn't do the second time, or what did you do the second time that you
Yeah.
did the first? Why did these come out differently? One answer could be that the person who did commit the crime committed it within that past year.
Yeah.
That could be it. True story. Again, it wasn't a ride share, but I did once have a guy. This was brilliant. He's at the interview, and the background check comes in after the interview, and they say, sorry, this background check, and the crime that he was being rejected for, supposedly he's still in jail for. Okay, so they run a report that says, yeah, this person committed this crime and he's currently serving 3 years in this prison.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm not.
Probably can't be me.
Obviously, it's not me. And did you even look at it and just kind of say, well, wait,
Yeah.
we're giving a background report about, so it's just more just a level of the negligence, the level of how bad they were. That it just makes my case, I guess, easier to prove.
Yeah.
But that's not going to change my client's recovery. It's not going to change what we get. That's all about what the value of their case is,
Yeah.
based upon their loss.